As you heard, minimum wage can indicate plenty about a community, including housing. In southern Arizona, there's inventory, but affordability may be the challenge. We learn more from Marcos Ismael, a housing manager for Pima County. You've been with Pima County nearly 30 years now. How would you rate what we're seeing right now as far as affordability is concerned?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because I think, there's a lot of similarities with the economy prior to the Great Recession and how we were seeing land prices and home prices starting to skyrocket out of control. I don't think it's quite at the same level we saw starting, early 2000s up until, 2007. But there is a lot of concern with the increased costs and values. It's good on one hand that values are being restored to pre-recession levels. That's good for homeowners and property owners, but it presents challenges for those that are moderate, lower income families.
If a family wants to buy a home in Pima County, in theory, can they?
If you're not earning the median income, it's very challenging. The federal funds that we get to assist low-income homeowners and renters are targeting households at 80% of the area median income. And it's a lot harder to find an affordable house in that price range now compared to even 2 years ago.
How are we identifying the median income here in Pima County?
For a family of four, it's up to $63,900.
What do you see as the government's role in sort of marshaling all this? Because if you work in downtown, you want to live downtown, but you can't afford to, which means you have to drive to the east side. Transportation becomes a cost. You've got to drop kids off at school, etc. So, where does Pima County fall in helping families support their needs?
Our department gets the entitlement funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development for community development and housing. And so, we're trying to use those funds to help add new affordable housing. So increasing, the housing stock. There's a big shortage of housing, and I think, across the board, and especially for moderate income and lower income households.
What's considered affordable housing for moderate and low income?
Well, the federal government defines affordability as a housing that does not cost more than 30% of your income.
I know that you study the data, you review policy when it comes to housing, but what do you hear from families about the likeliness of finding an affordable home in a good neighborhood to raise a family?
That's very difficult right now, and as new construction costs rise, it also drives up the cost of existing homes.
Any factors play into this when we talk about Tucson's growth and development and how it's becoming this new hip city that people want to move to, that people who have lived here, who want to be here for all the right reasons, aren't being sort of phased out of the system because the market just doesn't lend itself to them?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic right now, with the influx of some big employers that are, importing jobs here basically. And so we've got a lot of people looking for housing, and people who are moderate income, middle income, upper middle income are competing for the same housing as folks that are just below the median income and lower income households. So it's just adding to the crunch and demand. I think there is an effort right now to look at what things can be done to reduce regulatory barriers and make it easier for not only home builders, but the average person that wants to build their own home. And I think the Pima County has done a lot to streamline its development services department and take a lot of steps in that direction, but I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. And I think a lot of other jurisdictions, both in Arizona and nationally, are looking at things that they can do to help make development easier, because the only way this problem is going to get better is, to increase the supply of demand. So whatever we can do in that area is important as well, I believe.
Okay, Marcos Ismael, thank you.
Thank you.